Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dr. Anil Garg has asked me to cover all the three topics, which is the shale gas, CBM, and since I was involved in these studies in the past 15 years ago. And since then, a lot more activity has taken place. So I know the audience here is mixed, so I think the oil people are perhaps not too many. So I have kept the presentation less technical. But of course, some technical things are unavoidable, but by and large is being kept less technical, and which is of general interest to the nation as to how much gas, how much possibility, what we expect from these unconventional gases. So that area I'm covering more. So the topic will be covering the non-conventional natural gases, which is consist of shale gas, CBM, and gas hydrate. Gas hydrate is the least studied in the world and also completely new in India. So first of all, those who are not familiar, what are the non-conventional gases? Very quickly, I'll not want to labor these issues in detail because time is short. Basically, there is a pointer somewhere here, yeah. If you see there, I mean, you will see conventional non-associated gas is there, which is not found with the oil, but the gas is found on its own, but it's a conventional gas, which will be shown here. There's no oil here. In a structure, you have normal gas. It's also called dry gas. It's conventional gas. Conventional gas can be produced at a very low cost, unlike the unconventional gases. It's a larger volume, easy to produce. Production per well is very, very high. Well cost is very low. Then we also have gas, which is found with oil, called associated gas. I find some people are still talking, so I think maybe I'm wasting my time here, some of the students. If you have something more valuable to talk, then I can wait for some time. Thank you. Maybe this is not your subject, maybe you're not from petroleum side, but have the patience of listening at least. Thank you. Now, because if you're not focused, I'm just wasting my time. Those slides are a waste of time. The associated gas is found with oil, which is shown here. Oil and gas together is called associated gas. It's a conventional gas. Now let's come to unconventional gases. Unconventional gases, for example, shale gas, you can see the bottom here. The shale band, and you drill through the shale band and produce gas from the shale. It's very expensive to produce. Permeability is very, very low. The well cost is very high. It's a huge horizontal well with multiple fracking. Cost is very, very high of these wells. And the volume of gas you produce is also very low as we go along now. Also, you get tight gas, tight sand gas in sandstone reservoirs, shown here, which is not in a structure. Wherever the sand is very tight, you will have gas. And now, coal bed methane is generally found in coal at shallower depth, which you will see at the surface. There's surface there, there's a coal bed methane on top. Again, this is technical, so I'm going to perhaps bypass this slide, but it just shows that in this triangle, the normal reservoir are shown on top. Very easy to produce, very high volumes of gas, permeability is high, porosity is high. As you go down this side, permeability comes down, rock becomes tighter, tighter, and tighter, more difficult to produce, harder to frack. And so eventually, you will get shale oil on this side, whereas on the other side, you will find that you have gas hydrates, shown here in the triangle. Now, difference between conventional reservoir and unconventional reservoir. Conventional reservoir, the volume of the reservoir is small, but the amount of gas that you will have in it is very large. Unconventional reservoir, the volumes are very large, very, very large, but the amount of gas in them is small because reservoir is very tight. Porosity is very low, permeability very low. so become cost very high. Okay. Now with these issues, we just go on. This just shows that the potential of unconventional gases. The shale gas in 2010 in USA, which is the main country which mastered the technology for producing coal bed methane and also shale gas. In 2010, just to illustrate the issue, the shale gas used to be only 23% of total gas production in the USA. At that time, the Cbm was almost 34%. Today, Cbm production has come down dramatically in USA, and shale gas is almost touching 52%, 53%. And conventional gas is coming down because that USA have been producing for a long time. So now USA, which used to be the largest importer of energy in the world, way ahead of even China, is becoming gradually the net exporter of energy. Even the GAIL is importing LNG from USA, which is coming from shale gas, is now converted into LNG there now. So we move over now. This is the position world over. The highest reserves that you see, these are the resources, are in China, about 1,200 TCF, USA about 820, 840 TCF, and the rest of the countries you can see. Now you have copy of this slide available, so I need not labor the issue. Now, as per the EIA, Indian reserves are 93. That's a separate story. We'll come to that later on now. This is the same figures shown here. 1,275 is China there, USA here, and as per the EIA study, only in 4 basins, India resources were shown as 63. Now, let's come back to the resources part here. There's a story to this resource thing. USGS was given the job by Ministry of Petroleum and DGH to look at the shale gas potential of the country about 7 years ago. And they came out with in my view, an atrocious figure of 6 TCF, shown here. And at that time, Mr. Chaturvedi was secretary in the Ministry of Petroleum, and I happened to drop in now and then once in 6 months or 8 months of ministry, and I was talking to him. He said, "Oh, Chandra Sahab, you said shale gas has some future in India. You to kuch hai nahi, 6 TCF, to hote nahi hai kuch." So I requested him, "Sir, let me, I'm in and out of the country all the time, so give me a few months' time. About 2 months' time, I'll make a rough estimate and come back to you." So that is the time, with his permission, I made an estimate. And where USGS has said 6 TCF, I made estimate based on ONGC and DGH data, and we came back with this figure here, 130 TCF, shown here, which was presented to Veteran Forum, which is a think tank of the oil industry. We give the figure now. So we'll be discussing these figures later on, which are shown here. So this will then give you some indication of what kind of reserves we have. Subsequently, ministry wrote to USGS, and then EIA was asked to make a study, and they studied in 5 basins, and then they found, it's not going back. Then they found 63 TCF in these 4 basins. We'll come to that later on now. So now let's come back to shale gas. What does shale gas development consist of? You have to do study of rocks, shown here on top. You do survey, seismic survey, shown here on top. And then you decide where the where the shale is good quality. You drill the wells, generally they are horizontal wells. You do number of wells from one pad, multiple well from single pad drilling. Cost is very high. And when you reach the shale, you frack them, shown here, the fracking units. And you also have to produce water from it, so there are surface facilities required. So all this is summarized in this slide here. And we'll skip the geological part, geophysical part. We'll come down to this simple thing. You drill a well, horizontal well, and then you frack it. Now, the shale gas wells, normally you do 5 to 20 fracks, but in US, for example, they're doing now 15 fracks and even more. For example, now on Barnett Shale, they've been doing 15 fracks, 18 fracks in a 3,000-meter horizontal well. The horizontal well is 3 kilometers, and they do 15, 20 fracks. And each frack costs a lot of money, $80,000 to $150,000, depending on how deep the shale is. That's how the cost goes up. And also, we're showing you just to a slide how the fracking is done now. This is a traditional well, 5 fracks or 4 fracks. Lower one is multiple fracks. You plug the well on 2 sides and you frack. When you frack, because shale is impermeable, very low permeability, unless you break it, create fractures in it, the gas will not flow into the well. That's why you frack the wells. And that's the reason why America has become so successful in producing, because the fracking technology has become very advanced and fairly low cost. And that's how shale gas revolution is taking place in the world now, started by American companies now. Now, let's see what's happening in India quickly on the shale gas side. These are the basins where we have shale gas potential, which are listed here. Cambay, Gondwana Basin. Gondwana is very important because we've got full of coal. Assam Arakan Basin, Krishna Godavari, Kaveri, Vindhyan, and the others are also there now. I think the first 5 are more important: Cambay, Gondwana, Assam, Krishna Godavari, and Kaveri, more important for the time being. And this is the potential which I mentioned to you, which ARI has done in 2011. And after the ministry, okay, so after the ministry wrote to them and DGH met the USGS people, they decided to add 1 more basin into their study and do more studies, more data, and they came with a figure instead of 6 TCF, they made it 63 TCF. So this is what I made, 200 TCF, in which 130 TCF is shale gas, which is shown there now. Cambay, KG, Kaveri, Assam, Vindhyan, and Gondwana, and then 45 will be tight gas. Tight gas is also shown here. So together, all this comes to around 2. These are only estimates. It was just made to show, look, potential is not so low as the USGS has said initially. We have very, very little data on shale gas. We don't drill into shale, so we don't have shale gas data. And so one recommendation that DGH has made to ministry at that time was you should drill some wells for shale gas, which we'll cover later on. That work is now going on. So as you drill more well, you get more data. The shale gas reserves will also keep on increasing now. This reserve we covered now. This shows the where the major shales of Indian basins are. Those of you who have a little bit of idea of the Indian geology will know. These are the major shales, at what depth they are. So I will not labor. You will have this slide. Those of you who are interested can read this slide here and have a look at that thing. But it is around 1,200 meters, 800 meter deep. In some cases as deep as 2,000 meter. Better not to go for very deep shale because the cost of fracking is very, very high. And it becomes counterproductive. So better for us to go to shallow shales, 800 meters, 1,000 meters at the most, frack them, and see how much gas comes out. The next thing that is important, little bit, tiny bit of geology is required. What is characteristic of shale gas? What we look for in character? You look at the TOC value, which is the carbon content, how much in the shale? It should be rich in carbon content. It should be 1.5 plus. VRO is the night reflectance study. We should have certain value of VRO. Then thickness is important now. Kerogen quality, is it the organic matter, is it oil oriented or gas oriented? That's kerogen. And of course, the estimates. So in this case, the estimates are even more, which is shown in the last column there. That takes care of a very quick review of shale gas because I have to cover 3 topics. The next is now Cbm, coal bed methane. Now, in certain coal fields, and we have experts from coal here, so I mean, will not be able to add much to their information, but they are the experts. We have this gas flaring, this gas burning now, because accidentally in Jharia field, this gas caught fire, and so it's still burning. In one field, I'm told the gas is burning from British days. The time, British time is still burning. They cannot quench that fire. It's full of gas. So this is what it looks like. The gas is escaping, and which is burning now. And this gas has to be trapped and produced from our wells. So the CBM resource, again, I was trying to show in the world how much they are. Here this shows Canada, coal resources in billion tons, CBM resources in TCM, Russia, China, USA, Australia, they are the important ones. And reserves here shown in TCM, different countries. We move forward now. Now, what happens in India? The prognosticated resource, means the theoretical resource based on certain geological and geophysical data, in 15 basins of India is supposed to be of the order of 400 TCF. Now, this is very, very elementary at this stage because we don't have much data. 400 TCF. And the CBM resource in 26 blocks, where some calculation has been made based on data from GSI, CMPDI, is 50 TCF in 26 blocks. Total gas resource, which is in the ground, is 450 TCF approximately. Gas reserves established on date are 8.4 TCF. As a matter of fact, this is the slide which was made a year and a half ago. The gas resource is now 11 TCF. Now, I started CBM in India way back in we started in 1995, and we gave the first log in 2001. I'm not very proud of this result, but at the same time, we should not ridicule this. 11 TCF or 10 TCF is not a small amount of gas. It's a very large amount of gas. You drill more wells, take more blocks where the coal quality is good, where the gas is good in coal quality, you get more reserves of gas. And recently, the government has taken a very pragmatic step. They have revised the price for certain kind of gas, in which CBM also comes, deep water gas, CBM, and unconventional gases. The government said you can have market-driven price. Now, this is going to give a real boost to our gas production. For example, now Reliance have found gas, not now. They found gas 11 years ago or 12 years ago, and they were sitting on that gas because the price was not good enough for them to produce. Now, about 2 years ago, they laid the pipeline. Now they're already producing about 0.6 million cubic meters, and they claim it will go to more than 3.5 million cubic meters. SR is producing about 1.1. They claim they'll go to almost 2.5. GCL producing now almost 0.6. They claim it'll go to 1.2. ONGC has to produce from Bokaro block and Jharia block. Production will be at least 15 MMCMD, million cubic meters per day, perhaps in the next 1 or 2 years from private sector blocks. And if ONGC comes in production, it'll be even more. So CBM is an important resource. And this gas, if you don't produce, it remains in the coal and will be lost to humanity. Because after some time, the solar will come, wind energy will come in a big way, which our government is already following, rightly so. And this gas will remain in the ground. So if you produce it now, we can use it. Otherwise, it is lost to humanity. It's just lying there in the coal. Okay. So looks now at the established reserve, which I've showed you. This is the block-wise. 8.3 has now become 11 TCF. I have the table with me. Anybody interested now? I have the table with me to show you 11 TCF, block-wise, how much it is now, okay? And this little bit of information, normally you will have this gas in a high-rank coal. We're showing here, which is shown here in the group A, which is high-rank coal generally is found in Barakar formation of Jharia, Raniganj, East Bokaro, and Karunpura coal field. So these are generally higher gas bearing. For example, now in Bokaro, we did a laboratory test, and 1 gram of coal is giving between 18 to 20 cc of methane. 1 gram of coal in the laboratory yields 18 to 20 cc of methane. That shows that when you're looking at very large volume of coal, couple of square kilometer size block, how much gas you can produce from it. It can cross 6 million cubic meters or 5 million cubic meters from Bokaro field itself, this gas. And the coal remains intact, you produce the gas, leave the coal behind, and later on the coal can be mined. So it is a win-win for the companies which are working there and win-win for the country. Okay, critical factors of CBM, I'll skip now. I've got more technical details, I can give it to you. This just shows how we produce CBM. It's opposite of producing oil and gas in a conventional well. Here, you drill a well into coal, and you have to lower the pressure in the coal seam. When you lower the pressure in the coal seam, by sucking all the water out, coal is like a blotting paper, something like blotting paper, is soaked in water. So you have to keep on pumping water for 7 days, sometime even 2 months or 3 months. Pressure lowers on the coal seam, and coal has got a lot of cracks in it. We call them cleats, face cleat, but butt cleats, and through the cleats, this gas starts moving into well, and you produce gas. So that's how it's opposite of producing in a oil well is different. Here you remove water. In the oil well, we pump water to pressure maintain. It's opposite of that here. And this just shows, like for example, now in this well, in Sohagpur, we're drilling horizontal well, and we're producing gas to the coal seam. And all this has been shown by Reliance, by SR, by GECL, and ONGC, by producing gas from CBM from commercial wells, that it is economically highly viable. It's profitable and highly viable. This just shows, those of you who may not be familiar with it, the kind of rig we use, not a very big rig. Slant rig is generally used for giving a directional well, it's easier now. It's a low-cost rig, doesn't cost much. Its cost is about 1/7 or 1/8 of an oil rig. And this is what it looks like. This is the fracking unit. You have to frack the coal. Got stuck. Okay, this is a CBM well installed with a pump. This pump is installed for pumping the water out. This is a separator, because when you're pumping this gas, it goes with water, you separate the water out. And this water has to be dumped into a pond, because there's an environmental requirement. We put a plastic sheet in the pond, and we put this water there, and this is the gas gathering station. Okay, so this finishes CBM, and we now move over to gas hydrate. And the National Gas Hydrate Program. Now, this is something comparatively commercially not very well established in the world. In Nankai Trough area in Japan, about a year and a half ago, Japan has produced gas from deep offshore wells. Of course, right now it's been test production. It's not a commercial, that doesn't count at this stage. We are still trying to finalize the technology. And there's a permafrost area in Canada where India joined hand. I mean, I was DG Hydrocarbon, we joined hand with the permission of the ministry with Canadians, USGS of America, Germans, and India. And we went, Malik well, we show you. The idea was that if you want a perfect technology for producing hydrates, hydrates can be formed wherever the temperature in the ground is very low. The gas, methane mainly, freezes as a white powder. Instead of gaseous form, it becomes a solid, like a white powder. So this will form in land area also, where the land is permanently frozen, like Alaska or Siberia in Russia. And the land, the advantage is you can have a land rig, you can put your vehicles there, put your tents there, your camps there. and drill these wells at a fairly low cost. Other alternative is to go to sea, where the water is deep, and wherever the temperature of water is less than 4 degrees centigrade, you'll be surprised. It is not 0 degrees centigrade. Less than 4 degrees centigrade is the temperature in water. The gas coming at the bottom of the sea will freeze into a white powder. So we also have Cbm in the sea. We also have Cbm on the ground in permafrost zone. It's cheaper to produce this thing on ground than to go and have a couple of ships stand in the sea and produce in the sea. So that's how we first went to Canada, and we tried to perfect the technology there. Now, so let's see, Cbm. First of all, it's okay. First of all, gas hydrate is methane. It's a methane carbon with 4 hydrogen molecules, and it is trapped in a water molecule. That's how hydrates are formed. Gas gets frozen, and the water freezes around the methane molecule, which is shown here in the picture. So it is gas molecule engaged in an ice lattice, and the beauty is that this powder contains 160 or 180 times of natural gas by volume. So 1 cubic meter of gas hydrate can have 160 to 180 cubic meters of gas. That's a big advantage that we have. If you have hydrate, you can produce very large amount of gas commercially, and that's the reason why everybody is trying to work on hydrates. Now, the amount of gas in the world hydrate is huge. Nobody knows how much it is, because the biogenic gas, I don't know how much you are aware of this thing, the gas can be thermogenic, which is of petroleum origin. It can be biogenic from bacterial origin. The bacterial origin gas, biogenic, is forming in trillions of cubic meter every year at the ocean bottoms, and it comes out. And that is how white powder at the bottom of the ocean you'll see everywhere. And Americans and Norwegians were first to map this kind of white powder there now. So the amount of gas hydrate in the world is several times more than conventional gas. There's no amount to it. The question is now where and how to produce it. First of all, you can't produce this gas hydrate from normal sediments, which normal sediments have a lot of clay in it. You can only produce gas hydrate if it's a good sandstone reservoir. That's a big restriction we have. And when I come to India, we'll see, we'll be mapping sand reservoir in which we have gas hydrate. And normally, again, it's very difficult to say, I would say only 7 to 8 or maximum 10% sediments have sand, and 90% of the time you have mostly clay. So clay soaked hydrates can't be produced. They can only be produced from sand. And the resource, the only resource, an estimate, of gas hydrate in sands in the world is 43,500 TCF. It can take care of our demand for, well, several decades if we can start harness this energy. Now, this just shows an idea. The Indian estimates, only an estimate of resource again, is 1894 TCM, trillion cubic meters. I just give it an example, to illustrate the point. That if only 1% of this gas we are able to recover, which is not, shouldn't be too difficult now, only 1%. Normally you produce 30%, well, normally you produce 60% gas from gas reservoir. But this being a non-conventional gas, perhaps you're going to produce 5%, 10%, but I'm taking only 1%. If you can produce 1% of this gas, it can produce at a rate of 200 million cubic meters per day for 259 years. And our consumption of gas is only about 150 million or so in India today. So it can take care of Indian demand for a very long time, just 1% of that gas. That's why this technology has to be perfected, and we have to keep on following it now. There is a National Gas Hydrate Program, which I was heading as Director General in the Ministry of Petroleum. There's a technical committee where DG is the chairman, and these are the members there: ONGC, GAIL, Oil India, OIDB, Ministry of Environment, they're all members there now. And they have a lot of work they have done in this. Let me come down to that presentation. We have made several subgroups there in the ministry. In this National Gas Hydrate program, we have a subgroup on geoscience, drilling, production, technology development, environment, and transportation. And there's a team which they work on this thing. Each area is being looked into and perfected. And we have created, with the help of OIDB funding from Petroleum Ministry, Institute of Gas Hydrate Laboratories in Panvel Institute of ONGC now, where all the cores which we have taken out from the sea have been kept now. So this shows why it's important for us, because almost 3/4 of our sedimentary basin lies in the sea. Well, 2/3 at least lies in the sea. Only 1/3 we have on land. So this shows, these are the surveys that I did at DGH when I was there, Director General, shown here. And on these sea surveys, we are looking for signs for gas, which is seen like this. It's called BSR, Bottom Simulation Reflector. Wherever the gas gets that magical figure of 4 degrees centigrade temperature in the bottom and in the sea sediment, or 3 degrees centigrade, it will freeze. The moment it freezes, in the sound waves that we use on these seismic lines, sound waves that we use, will give me a contrast between a solid and the gas, and I get this reflector. I don't know if you can see from that far or not, but this is called BSR. And this mimics the bottom of the sea. If the bottom of the sea goes down, the BSR will go down. The bottom of the sea goes up, the BSR will go up. It mimics the bottom of the sea. You can see that now. Exactly the mimicking is going on there. And these are the telltale signs that we have gas hydrate. So I did the survey in East Coast, where we had the best results. We had also on West Coast, good results, and also, surprisingly, Andaman. And Andaman, we not only found gas in the form of gas hydrate, we found this. Conventional gas, free gas, trapped below hydrates. The white is the all hydrate, and we have gas trapped. And we made a proposal at that time to ministry that we can drill one well and produce this kind of thing. We had, at least in one area, we found 6 such structures with gas below the hydrate. That just shows how much gas is there in hydrates now. Okay, this is the area which was found to be best, because a ship, Joydus, was hired, and Joydus Resolution was hired first, which cored, and now another ship came, this time from Japan, and I'm sure Mr. Negi will cover those details. And this is the proposed site. Best reserves we found offshore KG. That's the best reserves, offshore KG here. This was cored, and in an area of about 200 square kilometer has been identified as area B, C, and E. And based on the studies that ship did and coring it did, it is estimated that this 200 square kilometer area in here has got 13.8 TCF of gas trapped in gas hydrates. Now, how much can we produce? That is, test drilling will decide later on. That drilling stage we have not reached now. Only this is done on coring now. So 14 TCF of gas trapped in hydrates, which is not a small amount, in a 200 square kilometer area, is a very high concentration. Just for information, this last ship which came here did 42 wells in 147 days. They drilled this thing. About 100 million was the cost of this drilling campaign. And a lot of cores have been collected, a lot of information has been collected, and reservoir modeling is now being done. So gas hydrate is still in a conceptual stage, but we know that is viable, and the Japanese have produced gas from their wells in Dankai Trough area in Japan. This just shows the potential areas. We can see on this slide on the East Coast and West Coast, but best areas in my view are, of course, KG, followed by Andaman, but I would first put my bet on KG. We should first try and produce this thing there and see how it goes. This just shows the gas hydrate prospected area, the category 1, 2, and 3. 1 is a highly prospective, 2 is moderately prospective, 3 is low prospective. This shows the figures that we have. and the figures are very impressive and very, very high. And this shows the probability of success. We can have a resource as high as 1894 trillion cubic meters. This one shows here. Well, thank you.